Hey guys, hi, welcome to the channel. In the last video on human anatomy and physiology, we are talking about epithelial tissues, and it's not complete if you don't talk about glands. So, today be talking about glands and with a specific focus on exocrine glands, not on endocrine glands. And don't worry, we'll talk about the differences and all the stuffs in the subsequent chapters. Okay. So what are glands? Glands could be individual cells, right? So they are unicellular glands, or they could be multicellular organs. Both are a possibility, right? And as a result, they will secrete something. This secretion can carry different functions, right? The functions could be physiological. For example, if you remember, the saliva has an enzyme called amylase. And what is the function of this amylase? To digest the starch, right? Or the secretion could be a message, right? Could be a command. So if you remember, in the lower classes you have talked about these messages as hormones. Example would be insulin, which keeps a check on the blood sugar level that you have, right? So that's the differences, different types of glands. Now, the functions of the glands. Now, glandular secretions may include sometimes other substances which do not have these roles. So, mucin. What is mucin? This forms a sticky substance called mucus when dissolved in water, and this is what protects your internal coverings of the body. Sometimes it could be ions. We already talked about hormones, or it could be simply urea. So these might be other types of secretions that comes out of glands. Now, typically we want to divide glands into two categories. So you have endocrine gland and you have the exocrine gland. Now, what is an endocrine gland? An endocrine gland gives the secretion in the nearby area. Why I'm using the nearby area? You generally find the description that they give their secretion in the blood, but cells are not immersed in blood usually. You have to remember that. So endocrine glands, they give their secretion into the extracellular matrix, which obviously via lymph is linked to blood, and this is how it gets into blood. It could also get directly into the blood, because you have to remember that the blood capillaries, they are not entirely proof, right? There's a communication of substances between the blood and the ECM, right? So the substances that endocrine gland secretes, they may enter the blood via lymph or directly into the blood, and the blood carries them to all the places in the body, and they produce a response. They produce a response only at the place where we have receptors for these messages. So endocrine glands, they give secretions which are usually messages. Now these messages get carried via blood to all the places of the body, but the response would be shown only at a place where you have receptors that will read the message and act accordingly. Endocrine gland would be a part of control and coordination, and it would be dealt in a very huge detail, but later on. Right now, we'll be focusing on exocrine glands. Now, exocrine glands, they produce, they are generally produced as a result of invagination. So, what is an invagination? So, forming a pit-like structure of an epithelial tissue, right? Now, this invagination could have a duct, right? So there could be a duct, and there could be an acini, which is a group of cells which are supposed to do the secretion, and the duct is supposed to deliver it, right? Both of these are epithelial derivatives. Now, I would like to add here, not all of the exocrine glands are multicellular structures. We already gave that some of those are individual cells, and the most frequently found is the goblet cell. If you remember, that produces mucin, and it's very commonly found in columnar epithelium or pseudostratified epithelium. So these are two places where you'll find them a lot. Now, we want to classify exocrine glands into various types, and that is what we are going to study next. Now, on the basis of anatomy, we divide the glands into simple and compound. What does simple glands mean? Simple means an unbranched duct, right? Now, this unbranched duct does not mean that the secretory portion could not be branched. Now, let us look at a few stock examples and various subcategories of the simple exocrine glands. Now, remember the red portion of these drawings, they represent the duct, whereas the blue portion of the drawings, they represent the secreting area. So, it could be simple tubular. So remember, these are all simple glands. So simple tubular. So the secreting part, it is also sort of like a tube. Now we can have simple branched tubular. Now as you can expect, that means the secreting part would be tubes, but they would have branches, right? The next is simple coiled tubular. That simply means that the secretory part would be a tube, but the tube would be slightly coiled in nature. Now, the next category is simple acinar. Acinar means at the end you have a grape-like collection of cells, right? And this grape-like secretion, collection of cells is going to give the secretion. Now, the next category is just another variant, branched acinar. What does branched acinar mean? That means that the secretory portion will branch, and at the end of each branch, you have an acinar, right? Pretty simple if you ask me, right? So this is branched acinar. Now all of these required that there is no branch in the duct itself, right? So what's the other category? You'll have branches even in the duct. So let us try to see themselves. Now talking about compound glands, they have branches in the duct. As you can see, in each of these types you have branches in the duct, but now you can get the vibe that what all of these are. So this is compound tubular. That means the secretory portion is shaped like a tube. This is compound acinar. That means the secretory portion is like a bunch of cells collected in a spherical shape. And this is a mix of the two. That means this is compound tubuloacinar, right? So this is how you divide them on the basis of anatomy. A second way to maybe understand or divide glands is how they are secreting stuff. So on that basis, we can divide them into three types: mesocrine, apocrine, and holocrine, right? Now the examples are written there. Mesocrine is salivary glands and gastric glands, apocrine is mammary glands, and holocrine is sebaceous glands that you find in the skin, the oil secreting glands. But the thing is, how exactly are they different from each other? Let's try to understand that. So the mesocrine glands have their secretions packaged into these secretory vesicles, and these secretory vesicles are pushed out via exocytosis, right? So they give out the secretions via exocytosis of these secretory vesicles, where they store all of their secretions. Whereas in the apocrine, as the apocrine gland, the pinching off occurs, right? So the secretions here are just released, but here a portion of the cytoplasm itself exudes out, right? The apical portion, it pinches off the cytoplasm along with it, and the secretion along with it. But the cell is quick to repair, right? So the pinching off of the apical cytoplasm happens, and the secretion is delivered. Now the most interesting one is the holocrine gland. As the name itself tells you, holo means whole. So in here, the entire cell will disintegrate, right? And hence their secretion in their cytoplasm would be released into the surroundings. So you can eventually observe these cells breaking down and giving out the secretion, right? So this is all that we'll cover right now regarding glands, and as and when we enter into more specific categories, we talk about more glands, more secretions, more stuffs like that, right? Guys, once again, make sure that you like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and share these with your friends as much as possible. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.